Welcome to the My House Podcast, a show about the past, present, and future goings-on at the My House Youth Drop-In Center in Wasilla, Alaska, with your host, Michelle Overstreet.
Welcome to episode 21 of the My House Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Overstreet, and today I'm joined by Rachael Ridge, who is the project manager for our $23 million appropriation project. Rachael, thanks for being here.
Hi.
And before we get to our discussion, Isaac, do you have any housekeeping for us?
Sure. I am actually really happy with how everything has worked out as far as our release schedule. After a couple hectic weeks, we've been able to push a lot of extra stuff out in the last couple weeks. Redemption has what ended up being part one of a two-part episode that was just a big roundtable discussion with Stacy and Julia, but then also Linda Chudd and Patty Wallman, who both have been on Redemption before, but were both in the same room, just kind of doing some women's empowerment discussion items, and also not just women's empowerment, but also just self-esteem and self-respect topics. And they asked me to jump in there on a couple points as well, so we really have 5 people that were in there talking.
Nice.
It was fun because we only have 4 mics in here, so we had to get a little creative. But I was really happy with how that turned out. That'll be coming out tomorrow. Part 2 of My Voice will drop on Friday of this week, and that part 1 was just out last week. So if you've listened to that part 1, please check out that as well. Diagnonsense will have an episode dropping next week. We're going to get back to our normal schedule with Diagnonsense on Wednesday, Redemption on Friday. But then we will also have an episode that will come out on Christmas Day of Diagnonsense, and that will be the Jim Carrey Grinch analysis episode for a special Christmas bonus. So there'll be a little bit extra content even that week as well as we get ready for the holiday season. We've got a ton of stuff to bank and that is going to be coming out in the next couple weeks that I'm super excited about. We kind of went from no content to just a ton of really good stuff that is releasing through the end of this month and January. So make sure you're staying tuned for all of that.
Yeah, that was a fun thing. When we weren't recording, there was all kinds of stuff going on here. Stuff was blowing up every day. And so we had a lot of content when that was done. But we also have a lot of really good things that are happening, a lot of forward progress on goals, in addition to some of the holiday goals of having every youth have a happy Christmas and creating a nice community platform for interfacing with clients during the holiday season, just creating positive community interaction. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about that on the last episode of the My House Podcast as well. So you can check out that from last week if you want to hear a little bit more about what we've been doing in the last couple months.
So, Rachael, in the course of putting together the application for this appropriations ask, the request to me was send me something awesome and dream big. And I had a picture on my wall in my office for since 2015 of a building called the Star Apartments on Skid Row in LA that was designed by Will Carson and a team of architects. And they won this Time Magazine Invention of the Year award for the building. And it's got retail spaces on the main floor, office space on the second floor, and then the upper areas are housing, different kinds of housing. And I just thought that was so brilliant. And for Alaska, man, what better place could we have for teenage kids that struggle to go to work that they could just go downstairs, right?
Yeah.
It's
perfect because Alaska, particularly Wasilla, needs a facility like that.
Yes.
Additional retail space for the community, services on the second floor, and housing on the third floor.
Yes.
And I want to hop back to what you mentioned earlier about community involvement around the holidays. And we have a great opportunity for the community to come and get involved on this project.
Yeah.
December 19th is a Monday and Tuesday is the 20th. And we've got a design charrette scheduled for those 2 days where we're inviting a variety of community members, maybe some potential leaseholders, some retail folks, some folks that provide services to the homeless teenager community and teenagers who need a boost up. And so if you're interested in learning more about the project or joining us in brainstorming the project from a design standpoint, the doors are open for you to come and take part. Contact My House and we'll let you know dates and times and which meetings to come for.
Yeah, 373-HELP. Give us a call. We'd love to include as many people from the community as possible. One of my commitments for this, this is I probably shouldn't tell the story, but I will anyway, just because I think it's kind of funny. But one of the first phone calls I got after the appropriations list was released to the public was from a guy, I think in Homer. And he called me and he said, just this big, loud, booming voice, what in the F makes you think that you should get a $23 million appropriation? And my response to that was, well, what makes you think that I shouldn't? You know, I've been thinking and dreaming and planning of this for quite a few years. I have a finger on the pulse of the homeless youth community outside of Anchorage. I think what we're going to do is going to be just completely show-stopping. And I think people are going to come to see the building because I think Will Carson is an amazing architect, and the rendering and design ideas he has are like nothing that we ever see up here. I think this building, the money for this building comes from taxpayer dollars, so it really should be a community project. We should all be involved in designing this, and it should really serve the community at large, in addition to really meeting a number of the needs of homeless youth.
Whenever I'm on a federally funded project, we're just stewards of this money.
Yes.
It is the community's monies. It is the taxpayers' money. The purpose is to support the homeless teenage population in this area, and there's a whole variety of ways we can go about doing that. And yes, we would love for the community to come, meet with us, tell us your ideas, tell us what you want to see, what you don't want to see.
Yeah, what do we need in this valley, right? This Wasilla is such a cool community because a lot of people come from the Willow-Talkeetna area to do shopping, to go to Walmart, you know, to go to the certain specialty shops. I know there's a fiber arts shop locally that a lot of people come from outlying areas to visit. Some of the brew pubs that are not they aren't available there. And for some of those products that are holiday, I think Matanuska Brewing had a pumpkin spice soda or something that was part of their holiday offerings. And people are coming in to pick those up. You know, they want to be part of the community. And so I really feel strongly that people from outlying areas should come and tell us what they want in this building.
Right.
What would help you? And I really like how you said that, Rachel, the idea that there are services in there for all youth. Volunteers of America is going to be helping us run a recovery high school. VOA runs a residential youth substance abuse treatment program in Eagle River that gets very, very high marks and is very well respected across the state. And so are there ways that we can have young people engaging in upstream prevention programs that are part of the VOA continuum, and can we run those out of the second floor and really keep kids from needing full-on treatment?
Right. And this facility is really unlike any others that I'm aware of. You know, these folks aren't just outcasts to be placed in a facility. This is true community involvement. They're offered jobs at the retail shops in the first floor, the cafe. The services that are provided on the second floor are ran by local business folks. Easily could get internships at some of these services throughout their years at the facility. And it's really a true integrated approach versus a segregated approach.
Yeah. I that's one thing that I feel really proud of. I think in a lot of places, you know, the homeless they want to put them somewhere,
right.
You know, that we're going to put them in this hotel or we're going to put them in this building, and then nobody really has to deal with them. But the problem is they are part of our community, whether we want to deal with that or not. And nothing good comes from the shame that...
Right. Yeah, Michelle and I were talking just the other day about providing them a place that they're proud to be part of, proud to go to work there, proud to go on the walking track around the building, proud to go home.
Yeah.
You know, proud to say I live here and this is my community and I'm supported here. I mean, that if you have a sense of pride, you can go a lot further in life than if you're just beat down all the time.
Right. And I really believe that this should be a model for all homeless programs, both adult and youth. And I think that sense of community and community pride means that's why when we have the radio marathon, we have kids that are former clients that call and give donations.
Wow.
They come in and talk on the radio about their journey with us. The My Voice program, the 2-part that was just recorded, that will blow people's doors off. There's some information in there that will make people really think and question thoughts and ideas that they had before that about some of their beliefs. And I think, you know, that the idea that we can be an inclusive community, we can be an accepting community, and those people come right alongside and reach back for other people, right?
Yeah.
That's how we do it. And so in my mind, why wouldn't this be the model for everywhere?
This is a true a hand up approach versus a handout. I mean, this is very true hand up.
Yes.
And it's exciting to be part of.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because I think there are a lot of, right now there's a little bit of controversy. We're looking at a strategic plan for managing homelessness across the state of Alaska, and I'm the chair of the Governor's Advisory Board on that, for all that it's worth, because we really haven't accomplished anything, and I'm owning that by saying it, right? But it's very, very difficult because the philosophy in different communities is different. And that hand up and not a handout philosophy is hard for some communities to wrap their brain around, because it creates a responsibility for all of us to be, coming in and getting a cup of coffee is one tiny way of participating.
I drove by 10 coffee shops and I thought, oh no, I'm going to wait till I get to my house, and here I go. Got it.
Yeah.
And they had the oat milk I wanted, so
good.
It worked out great.
Good. Well, and the downside of the My House coffee shop is that sometimes you get a rookie barista who's just learning, and maybe they've never made something with oat milk
I think
before.
this was her first time, maybe, because it was a new thing, but I was patient and it worked out well, and she brought me my coffee, and I was in the phone booth around the corner, and life is good.
Good. And if it's not good, then you give it back and say, I like it to be a little bit more this or a little bit more that. I had a London fog this morning and brought it back in and said, I like it a little stronger,
Yeah, I noticed there's a sign at the cafe. It had some catchy phrase on it. It was pretty cute.
Yeah, if it's not just right, let us know. We're a training program, and so I really think that all of those little pieces help youth that have experienced homelessness to feel like they're part of a community. You're not just walking past them on the outside the grocery store and not saying anything.
Right.
There's an interaction, and shout out to Carson-Cottle, who we just had his memorial a few days ago. Bert was so good at that, and he was so good at just engaging. I love telling this story. Bert could never remember the name of any kid, including my own. He didn't know any kid's name, but he would call me once in a while and say, and early on when we first opened the My House drop-in center and we were doing the job training, he called me one day and said, hey, I just drove through the Burger King drive-thru and George is in there working. And George meaning one of the kids from the cafe. And I would say, oh, yeah, that kid is working at the drive-thru in Burger King. And he was so stoked because it was like he could see the outcome.
Yeah.
He could experience that we trained that kid, and Bert was coming here every day, every other day, and seeing that kid in the cafe going from not being able to make eye contact to be able to work the drive-thru at Burger King, right?
That's perfect.
And so that I love those stories about, that's how we do it, right? Mm-hmm. That's the real magic in having the job training pieces. And for this building to have 10,000 square feet, and we've got 3 or 4 businesses that are engaged already, who are interested in having lease space there and offering their business, moving their business from another location or expanding their location to that building. And I'm really excited.
It really creates a vested interest for the community to take part as a potential leaseholder, or if you just want to chime in and let us know your thoughts. Mm-hmm. But the more that these folks and residents can then work in the services and work in the retail shops that are on the first, second, and third floor, I mean, that's the full cycle approach, all right there in that one building.
Yeah. Yeah. We will have people working in that building that were clients at one time.
Right.
And they will be working as professionals.
Right. That's full circle.
Yes. And so the housing piece is really critical for us. This space will offer at least 64 more beds. I keep looking at it and trying to figure out how we can, can we put 2 bunk beds or
squawk in a few more?
Yeah, squeak a few more in there, because it's always something that we're lacking. But I also have to be thoughtful about the space and that, we want them to feel like they're not crowded.
And it'd be an effective use of the space, the square footage. Yeah.
The permanent supported housing in there is going to be really important. I've talked about this before. Right now, we have a coordinated entry system for permanent supported housing. So, for an example, we had a mom bring an 18-year-old high-functioning autism client in, and she just, single mom, late 60s, said, I can't do this anymore. I can't take care of him. He's got some special needs and he's a little different, and he's got, his voice is kind of funny, and people don't know how to treat him. And so it's hard for him to get and keep a job, but I need help. Mm-hmm. And so when we put him on the coordinated entry list at 18, that list starts at 18, and the first people that get the available beds are the people that have been on it the longest. And so an 18-year-old with really no homeless background has zero chance of getting a bed right out of the chute. But if we don't put him somewhere, he's got 100% chance of being bullied or traumatized or something really bad happening.
Absolutely.
In the scope of that. So he spent 2.5 years in our transitional housing.
Well, and at age 18, you can then implement some good practices on a daily routine.
Yes.
You can figure out good job placement where the skills that this person does have are valued at a particular job. Not every person can do every job.
Yes.
And finding the right match. I've seen you talk about that, and I've heard your examples in the past, and that hits the nail on the head.
Yeah.
It's a match.
Yeah.
People can do anything.
And
we just
sometimes
have to find the right match.
Right. And sometimes what I think the match is not what their dream is. And they're able to put their heads down and focus on what they really want and do some things that prior to that may have looked like they weren't capable.
Right.
So,
well, and my house has a few opportunities to kind of, as a test, as a playing field, before they get out into the real world, they can try their hand at the cafe, the retail shop, the Redemption Boutique, maybe the podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's probably some other opportunities I don't even know about. But, right there's 3 or 4 different options that are vastly different from each other. If you're client-facing versus maybe working in a stockroom, everybody's got a spot.
Yes. I love that. And being able to house those clients that are at risk for a time being, and took him 2.5 years, but he's in permanent supported housing now. But I'm proud that we'll have some of those beds in our own building. So if we do have those cases, we can say we have our own housing. This is an 18-year-old that needs permanent supported, and their parents do their best. This is not a slam against the parents. Their parents do their very, very best. But I think this is a really nice way of solving.
Yeah, at age 18, they have a chance. If they've got to stay on a list for 10 years and be homeless in Anchorage or someplace, their chances are dwindling by the minute.
Oh my gosh, the trauma that happens when young people that are vulnerable like that go into a street situation is just unfathomable. It's stories that nightmares are made of, and we just don't want. That's how we end up with long-term homeless people. Right. That trauma happens, and then they never can get out of that loop. And so the prevention of that trauma becomes a big part of our mission.
Yeah, it creates their foundation, and then and they can stand on their own 2 feet later.
Yes. And they know they're valued and they're worthy and people care about them. And I really love the idea. Some of the things in this building, Judy Gum, who is an Alaskan jewelry artist from Esther, did a piece called Here Comes the Sun that in fact Dejanay Hale really loved and said, what if we use something like that for the theme for our building for the art, and we bring in Alaskan Native artists and people that want to partner with us on the art in the building but build it into the building, which was Will's idea as well. And so I'm also really excited about some of those art opportunities, both for youth to be involved in them, but also for the feeling that I think that's going to convey in the building.
Right.
There's a feeling when you have that, those, the part of that image is birds kind of flying up and away. Mm-hmm. And it sort of goes with the memorial garden sculpture that Holly Getline created for the front of the building. But it's really a nice...
Which is just across the street, right? At the memorial?
No, it's out in front of this
this
building.
One. Oh, okay.
This building. But that feeling of those birds flying up and away kind of has there's an emotional response to that, I think, for people. And I think it's going to be really fun to incorporate the artists and the art and the youth. We have so many youth here that are interested in art.
Well, and it'll create a good space for the community to want to come and gather, and maybe there's a Christmas musical there someday. I don't know, a craft show. Awesome. Who knows what'll happen? But it'll be an attraction point for the community to come and want to linger and stay and shop the shops and visit in the cafe and visit with the youth and be involved and even just little conversations. So
yeah. I totally agree. We've talked about, Josh Freifogel has been at the table, and we've talked about a music venue for 200 people that we could have some shows. Mm-hmm. We've talked about our art and art walk, having an art opportunity for art and people to share their art. And And so I think there's lots of opportunities. So if you're listening to this right now and you're hearing something that piques your interest, give us a call, 373-4357, and join in some of these meetings to help us design this building, because we've got over 40,000 square feet budgeted of space. That 10,000 square feet is retail space and another 10,000 is office space. That will provide services and support, but also can be available for people that are looking for an office space and wanting to be a part of that.
Well, and if famed Diagnonsense guest Josh Freifogel is involved, then you know it's got to be something interesting, right?
Yes, he is so creative and really a masterful thinker. In terms of that, and has been involved in the music scene for years here.
Yeah.
So
I'll shamelessly plug the Diagnonsense episodes that he's on, because they're all they're so much fun. Go back and listen to those if you haven't listened to those yet.
You know, they're fun, but they're also really thought-provoking. Sometimes they say things in those podcasts and I have to pause it and like think about it. Yeah. Like, what did they just say? And the relevance to what we do here. And when they talk about politics, but also medication and pharmaceutical companies and insurance. And there are so many different things that are woven into a young person experiencing homelessness and the challenges that they experience. There are so many things woven into that are political, that are social, that are economic, that it really does have a place,
Yeah.
So
I'll have to chime in and listen to that one. That's a new one on
my
list now.
Yeah. But I think it's Isaac's favorite Diagnonsense.
It's because I get to talk the most on that one.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, you can talk on this one, Isaac. We like you.
Well, I will say that tying it back to the new building, the thing that I'm most excited for is like you said, the community impact. And we talked plenty about this last week as well. But it really allows, just from my personal standpoint, it allows the podcast network and the recording studio to really branch out and to start to look for how we can expand and what we can be doing in the community to better serve not only our clients, but also to get involved and be an asset. And I think just with the amount of space that we're talking and all the community partners that we're bringing in, I think it's going to allow our not only our outreach team, but also our digital and media outreach team to really expand and get involved with whether it's high school sports or local news or radio or the music scene. It's just super exciting.
I completely agree, Isaac. I think you're such a great ambassador for this field. And Eddie Maxwell and I talked about this over the weekend, Eddie over at KMBQ. And they were here for the radio marathon and just loved the recording studio. But when Isaac was talking with Eddie, it's his enthusiasm bubbles over. And Eddie said, I think that you're going to have kids that are going to want to get involved in broadcasting because of what Isaac does.
Yeah.
And
maybe
I could totally see that.
Maybe we're working on it. I don't know. There might be something that we're working on.
Yeah,
but
we got some toeholds, and we're kind of feeling like there's a place to go with that. And from Eddie Maxwell, he runs the radio station, so he's always looking for voice actors. He's looking for people who are interested in participating in some way or another. And I really do think that it's a field that it's going to grow more and more. The popularity of podcasts and video vlogs and blogs and knowing how to do some of those things. Isaac's got a college degree from UAA. I'm just going to brag on you for a second. And when we hired him, well, when we built the recording, this is a bad story to tell on myself, but I'm just going to tell it. I'm shameless. But when we built the recording studio, I didn't really understand what the youth were asking for. We had all these guitars, and they're hanging in the recording studio. If you ever see a video of the studio, we're surrounded by really cool guitars, and I thought that they wanted to play music. And when we got the recording studio all done, I was like, okay, so it's all
here's your guitars.
Here's your guitars. They're hanging on the walls, and the soundproofing is in the studio. And my staff said, well, now we need someone to run the studio. And I was like, what? You mean this comes with the price tag of a full-time production manager? You guys didn't tell me that to begin with. And of course they're like, well, we thought you knew. But part of what that whole exercise for me was about in relationship to this building is really drilling down and understanding what they're really saying.
Yes.
And
I'm doing that with you as we go through this design process, because all these stories really layer up on each other, and it builds the full picture of what you're after, and then I can work with the designers to execute it.
Yes.
But it's an interesting play or
Right, a journey.
journey. Yeah, that's a better word. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very so. In my ignorance, I'm thankful that that we had Isaac, who was even interested in the job and built this whole podcast network for us and created a lot of momentum and energy around the clients sharing stories and the My Voice, the Diagnonsense, which is really a conversation about a lot of sort of controversial things, but in relationship to popular movies or culture or news or politics. And then as we start to build the foundation for this building, literally and figuratively, one of the things the Youth Advisory Board said was, can we have a walking path? Can we have like a 1 mile walking path around the campus? And can that be, can we have like stations? And one person brought up the project that the Rotary did at the Wasilla Library that's like a story walk. So you walk and you read the story, and each, each stop is a chapter in this little story that goes around. And then other kids wanted to have like, the Minecrafters all want parkour. We got to have some kind of parkour at each.
Parkour?
Parkour.
I don't know what that is.
Hardcore parkour.
So explain what that means.
It's like, I don't claim to be an expert on the parkour scene, but it's a cross between acrobatics and extreme hiking. Basically, you just like are trying to get from one place to the other in the quickest way like possible, or the straightest line possible, even if that means doing backflips over boxes and off buildings and stuff like that.
Have you been to there's a little obstacle course over
in
the
the park?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it like that?
Yes,
sorta?
it's like that.
Okay.
Kind of. Yes.
Okay.
Very similar.
Yeah. So that was one of the things they said, can we have some little parkour things where people can, play with the parkour idea. And then I spoke with Randy Dowd with Onward and Upward, who's another partner who we want to join us. And his company does outdoor experiences and leadership and activity. So, having the right people at the table is going to be really imperative to make this project
we want to
work.
hear these stories. You're telling me some of them. I need to hear more of them from the community. So
Right. So the more the merrier, as far as we're concerned. And the building really belongs to the community, and we're just the vessel. We're just the conduit. And I'm so excited about the location right across from the Wasilla Police Department there on Fishhook Road. It's a primarily wooded lot. That was the other thing the kids said, please don't cut down all the trees. And
this is a beautiful building lot. Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous trees, long-term growth. We did the geotechnical report and the foundation analysis, and it's good, solid ground to build on.
Nice. It's going to be beautiful. If you haven't been into the cafe, there is a rendering in the cafe that Will Carson and 64 North did. 64 North is the name of the architectural company that he owns in Los Angeles. It's also the latitude for Nome, where he was born. And in case we forgot to say, Will Carson is a Colony High School graduate who went to Harvard and got his architecture degree in Harvard, and has really achieved many, many recognitions in the field of architecture with regard to practical buildings that are also cost effective and functional. And so I'm very proud to have Will as the architect for this project. I think somebody said, I can't remember who it was in one of our past meetings, people will come to see this building.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
He's also going to be on this podcast network.
Oh yeah, we've got to make space for him in the schedule to do a podcast with us.
Yes.
So, and I would like to talk with him more about just his philosophy. His dad has been a founder with me from the very beginning and the vice chair of my board of directors for 12 years.
Wow.
And so Will's dad has been right at the table with all of this. He's the founder of with John Green of the Matsu Opioid Task Force, and just really impactful family. And so having Will on the podcast and talking about the community investment around this from his perspective is going to be really cool too. This is not
and that's right up his alley from, I visited with him quite a few times now, and soliciting community involvement and figuring out where to insert each piece of input and pull that all off flawlessly is a pretty big trick.
It is.
And he's got a good handle on that.
Oh, good, especially with a building this size. This is a big building.
Yeah.
I mentioned at Carson-Cottle's memorial service, that Bert really wanted this to be a 5-story building. He wanted it to be the tallest building in town, and for people to come there just to experience the design and the participation in the youth programs, but also he wanted it to be. And so it's the Carson-Cottle or Cottle-Carson building by federal.
The Carson-Cottle Center.
The Carson-Cottle
name.
It is, okay, the Carson-Cottle Center. And so I'm excited about that because Bert never wanted any credit for anything, didn't want his name on anything. And so it would take an act of Congress literally to change this.
They told me if I put any other name on the forms, it is going to delay.
Yes.
And I will use that name till the bitter end.
Good. Because Michael Carson is kind of the same way. In fact, when Bert passed away, Michael said, yeah, just call it the Bert Cottle building. And I said, we can't do that.
The name is set in stone.
It would take an act of Congress. So shout out to Senator Murkowski for helping us and supporting us with the appropriation, and her local representative, Jerry just was here this morning helping us work on some things. And it's really, really fun to have so many people so excited about something that we're doing right in the center of the valley. If you threw a dart in the middle of the valley.
It's an excellent location.
It's excellent. So any other thoughts or comments to wrap up?
From me, from the peanut gallery, you're looking at me.
Yeah, well, the peanut gallery. I always love the peanut gallery.
I'll just say that you know who else has been on this podcast network like 3 times now is Michael. And if you want more information about what he's doing, he has an episode. Bert also was on like the 6th episode of this podcast specifically. And I'd recommend going back and listening to that as well. I think that he was very poignant in that episode. And so if I'll just remind everyone again that we have lots of stuff happening on the network, and we've talked with these individuals a lot. We've talked about the building in the most recent weeks, and we're going to be talking a lot more about the building before the end of the year. So I'm super excited. It's funny that, and I was reminded of mentioning, you know, the stuff that the recording studio is working on, because as we prepare to build this building, it's also time for the organization to renew its strategic plan for the next 5 years. And it's just interesting how that worked out, right?
Yeah.
Right on time. So
yeah,
it's been awesome just kind of focusing in on and working on this for the last month.
Awesome. Rachel, do you have any wrap-up comments?
Just if you're interested in space in the building or you want to give us your 2 cents, give my house a call and we'll figure out a day and time to meet with you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much, Rachel, for being here. The My House podcast is recorded at the My House studio in Wasilla, Alaska. Our producer and editor is Isaac Smolden, and I'm Michelle Overstreet. Until next time.